Morning warriors, welcome to Why Shy Why. I'm glad you were able to make it here with me today. Just ignore the whiteboard, sorry. What I wanted to talk about today, guys, is specifically to those people that are watching that are technology professionals and want to understand, or probably need to understand, the business side of what they do, right? A lot of coders out there, me included, just don't care. But it's the year is now 2016, we need to know. Okay, so what we don't realize in technology these days is that the tech we build, the quality of the tech we build, is less important than the value of the tech we deliver, right? So, for example, back in the good old days, a couple of years ago, well, a couple of decades ago, 1 decade ago maybe, if we had the right technology we were using, we were writing the right kind of code, that meant it was it, right? From a developer's perspective, that was the bee's knees. We were doing great. We were a really highly functional, top professional development firm or group, team. That doesn't work anymore, right? These days, what you've got to do is you've got to deliver value to your organizations, and you deliver value through software, right? So um, the software itself, however, doesn't have to be the highest of quality. Now, let me just put a little bit of a pin in that because I will come back to that because it's not exactly right. Let me come back to a bit of a story that I'll have for you. Now, at the start of my career, I was asked to write a query, I guess, that would churn a whole bunch of data from different data sets and put it all into one. And off I went and I did it, and it took me forever, and it was quite a complex query, and it ended up taking um, about a minute to run, okay? Just under a minute, 59 seconds. And so this thing would run and it would take a minute, and then finally you would get the results. And that, in computing terms is, wow, big, takes forever. Okay. Now, that was at the start of my career. Every few years, every year or so, I'd come across this code and I'd think about it and I go, well, it's not worth fixing, but I kind of knew how to fix it and I got better at what I was doing. So, anyway, I left it alone. Fast forward about 5 years, and I now wasn't coding, I was a development manager, and one of the guys that was working for me decided that he was a bit bored, and he was going to recode this thing and make it quicker, right? Because he looked at it and went, wow, it takes 60 seconds to run this. This is nuts. This is not quality code. We can't do this, right? Okay, I kind of get where it's coming from. So what he was able to do was rewrite this thing using newer techniques, newer technology, and to be able to bring this thing down to 1 second, right? So press the button, 1 second later, boom, you've got the results. Now that in itself, respect where it's due, brilliant, right? As an academic exercise, that was brilliant. However, the problem was this: it took him 3 hours to get this done. Again, so most people, you're thinking less than half a day, not a big deal, quite a big win. Let's take another step forward. How often was this query run by the business? Well, it was actually an end of year financial reporting thing, so it happened once a year, right? So, when I started talking to this developer about how they had basically wasted 3 hours, um, I just wasn't getting through, right? And so what I started doing was really whiteboarding this thing for him, and the realization sort of popped out at the end. But what I'm trying to show was that it took him 3 hours or 180 minutes to build this thing. He saved us 59 seconds, so let's round up to a minute, right? He saved us a minute every time this thing ran, right? Because he took it from 1 minute to 1 second, which means payback periods in terms of how long does it take for this software to pay itself back in terms of the 3 hours we spent is actually 180 years. You see what I'm saying here? Now, that doesn't always make sense, right? Even though what he did was replace dodgy quality code with high quality code, it doesn't make sense to always do that. And that's why I was going back to, it doesn't always make sense to have the highest quality code out there in production, okay? You've got to start driving your decisions based on the value to the business rather than the value to yourself and your ego and the technology and the ability to brag about it to your friends, or even, if there's some sort of training involved in this and you're showing a junior how to do something like this, totally understand. There's different value there. But just to put 3 hours against something that only gets run once a year and you save a minute is a really bad idea, because no financial controller, no CFO is ever going to sign off on a project like that, and nor should they. Okay? So guys, when you're developing software, be really, really, really mindful that everyone you're developing software for runs on a particular thing called a profit and loss statement, right? Now, they might not be generating one for their business, but I guarantee you that's underlying everything, that's their KPIs. And so what you need to do is be able to run against that same standard that every other department in the world, in your organization, is running against. And if you're not doing that, if you're not making decisions that make valuable sense, that don't, that where you start choosing things to do that are less valuable than things that actually are valuable or prioritized, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and you're going to get yourself out the door, potentially, right? So keep that in mind when you're doing things like that. All right, guys, that's it for me for this week. I know that was sort of a departure a little bit, but with an MBA, I start seeing these things happening all the time, and it kind of does irk me. So I hope that helps you guys making decisions going forward. If you need to understand what the priorities are and how to do that, please come in touch and get in touch with us. We know exactly how to do that sort of stuff in really trying corporate environments. All right, cheers, guys. Have a good week. See you next week.